What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Batter's Eye. It's been about maybe a month or two since we filmed, but I had a really great guest on today. I didn't expect that you would respond to my DM, but I'm very glad you did. Take a second to introduce yourself and kind of outline your path, I guess, to where you are now.
Yeah, so I'm Beau Sulser. I played college ball up at Dartmouth, and then got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Was with them my whole minor league career, and then made my major league debut in 2022. Played in the big leagues with them and the Baltimore Orioles for a big chunk of 2022, and then this year signed a contract over in the KBO in Korea, and so currently I'm over in Korea playing over there. Yeah, so that's basically the path. And thanks for having me on. No, I'm glad anybody can reach out, and I respond to most DMs except for all the spam.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of people in the baseball industry probably view my DM as spam because I think I send the same thing for about a year now, just to every single person. So they probably all look
Hey.
at their messages. All the teammates are like, "Yeah, I got this one too." Not responding.
Hey, but you get enough no's. That's what sales is all about. You're gonna get a
Yeah,
hundred no's and hopefully one yes, and
yeah,
then you do
exactly.
it all over again.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's how things work out here. We make it work. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't missed on an episode yet. Everything's been great, so I'm gonna keep
Perfect.
going. Um,
Perfect.
so yeah, and this is my co-host Max.
Yeah. Thanks for introducing me before, by the way. I appreciate it. But let's get into it. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm
Well,
rusty.
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
thought. Second thought.
It really was a second thought, but you could get started, Max.
All right. So, pitching at Dartmouth for the viewers who are not aware, Dartmouth is a very prestigious school. We have an academic athlete here. So can you just quickly run through like your experience there? Like what was it like
Yep.
pitching there, and also balancing the Ivy League course load?
Yeah, I loved it. Playing. We were talking a little bit before we started recording. I think just playing anything sports wise, or being involved in hobbies and groups of individuals that have like interests is so important because those are going to be your best friends for life. And so that's really like the goal when I was in high school was to just play college baseball, right? And just continue playing a game as long as you can. And I wasn't good enough out of high school to get some, SEC or Pac 12 type of interest. Um, and so, for me, it was all about my older brother actually went to Dartmouth as well. He's in the big leagues with Arizona Diamondbacks. He's been in the big leagues the last like 4 years. And so I saw Dartmouth and how much fun he was having. And so I just really saw that as an opportunity to push myself academically and still get the chance to play baseball at the Division I level. It was one of my few D1 offers. And so I was kind of limited, honestly, is why I ended up there. And I got to play with my brother for a year, but ended up being a blessing in disguise because I absolutely loved it. It was the most fun I think I've ever had. And, balancing the work, the college work and sports and at Dartmouth wasn't terrible. I mean, it's just time. It's all time management. For everybody that's doing it now in high school, it's the same thing, right? Like you just have to time manage between social life, your sports life, and school, and try to do the best you can. And then hobbies like podcasts or whatever. And so I think just time management is key. Luckily, compared to high school, we only went to school like 3 hours a day, so it's a lot on your own time. And so you get a little bit more. As long as you're good with your time, it can be helpful because now you're not forced to be in a school setting for 6 hours a day. It's only three. So no, it was nice. I loved it, man. I loved the Northeast. Coming from San Diego was quite a change. So
Yeah, and now to kind of gear it towards baseball, I mean, I so like I said before we started, like we're young. We were born in 2005, so
yeah,
we had no clue. I don't think. I mean, we knew what colleges were, but like we didn't know anything about colleges. We didn't know anything about college baseball. We knew the Yankees, we knew the MLB, and we knew who the World Series champion was, and that was about it at that point.
yeah,
So I can only see what the stats tell me, and it looks like between your second year and your, well, it would be your redshirt junior year. You had a massive jump in performance. And what was it like in your junior year to find, to have things click for you like that? And then what made you decide to stay for that senior year instead of, possibly get drafted out of your junior year if that was an option?
Yeah, so I think the big jump actually. So I had Tommy John after my sophomore year. So I blew out in a playoff game against Yale, my last start of the year, my sophomore year, and so then I redshirted my junior year, just rehabbing my elbow, and I came back my senior year, my fourth year, and I well, to answer the question, I didn't have an option to sign professionally because I was throwing like 84 to 86. Um, I now realize that was a blessing in disguise, that I hadn't gained my velo back yet since the surgery. Um, and, I had to find a way to pitch. I was still facing, like my first outing after Tommy John when it was against University of Florida, that they were ranked number 1 in the country at that point. And it's like, you need to find a way to get these guys out throwing 84 miles an hour. And so it actually turned me into a pitcher, right? Like that's when I learned more off speed pitches. I learned my breaking ball. I really focused on accuracy. I learned how to pitch to hitters, how to read swings, because I was forced into a situation that I had to. I couldn't just rely on raw stuff anymore. And so I came back that junior year and I put up, or my senior year, but my third year playing, after Tommy John. And like I said, I was 84, 86, but I threw up really good numbers.
Yeah.
And it just taught me how to pitch. And then by my true senior year, I actually had a conversation with my brother, and that's kind of, I owe a lot to him. And what happened is he called me on the phone and I was like complaining about how my velo still hasn't come back. It's been, almost 2 years since surgery. I still am not throwing well. And he was like, well, do you think it's a mental block or a physical block? And I said, I don't know. And he's like, well, just think about it like this. He's like, if you don't throw harder, your baseball career is going to be done in 4 months. He's like, your baseball career is going to be done because you don't throw hard enough. You're not going to get an opportunity. But if you try your hardest to throw and you get injured, then your career's over anyways, but at least you gave it your all. There's no what ifs. Mm-hmm. He's like, so just don't worry about re-injuring it or redoing anything. Just try your hardest to throw as hard as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And after that conversation, I started like really focusing on long toss and just throwing the, pardon my language, but throwing the crap out of the ball. Mm-hmm. I was going to say a worse word, but anyways. Yeah. And so long story short is my velo came back. I was back up to 90, 92, but now I had the pitchability that I had learned the year before, mm-hmm. and ended up getting drafted in the 10th round by the Pirates at the end of that year with some really, really good numbers. And so it was cool. It was a blessing that I think Tommy John actually helped me out a lot.
Yeah. I mean, so I assumed I saw a DMP injury and, as we see with a lot of pitchers, I would say more pitchers probably get Tommy John now than people who don't, in at least that pitch.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous to say, but nonetheless, I think missing that year, you can kind of assume with a pitcher that it's like Tommy John, or it's like a leg, a lot of leg injuries or knee injuries or like that. Yep. And you came back. So, and you came back that strong. So I think I was either assuming that or like a mechanics change, which would have been cool too, because that also has a good story about it. But next, I want to go into your time in the minors, because you spent 5 years there. What was that like going through the Pirates minor league level? Because I know someone who knows Henry Davis, and he's not going to come on. Henry Davis can't come on. I know I've mentioned that a couple of times on episodes. The guy's too busy, but he's said good things, and I've asked about it, and he said great things. So I want to hear your thoughts on the minor leagues and the Pirates.
Yeah, no, I had a great time. I think it's a grind, right? Like it's you don't get paid a lot. I was in a very unique situation, not like Henry Davis, where he made a boatload of money on a draft day. Yeah. So I think that's what made it the hardest for me is I had to get off-season jobs. So to keep playing my dream of being a big leaguer and keep that dream alive, I had to go sell cars in the off season. I helped my dad doing construction. I had to have off season jobs, and we can lead into I actually started a business with my brother, and so anyway, so it was a grind, right? Because I signed for $5,000 in the 10th round. I got out of Dartmouth College with you know $50,000 or $60,000 of student loan debt. And so I get out of college with student loan debt, and then I only signed for $5,000. And next thing you know, I'm making uh, $1,100 every 2 weeks, right? So I'm making $15,000 a year, which is far below the poverty line to play baseball. And so then you have to pay for your training if you want to actually try to get good and compete with all these guys. And you have to pay for supplements, your protein, so it just gets expensive. But I think that was the hardest part, right, about minor league baseball is just not having the same like tools available. But what I will say is I got very lucky with my support system with my wife, my who I've been dating since high school, my family, her family, like all of that support was really the only reason I was able to make it and do it. But the minor leagues as a whole, after that fact, is an amazing time, right? You're traveling around with 30 dudes that are your age that all play baseball together. You're going to different cities. You're just playing baseball. Like there is absolutely nothing better than just waking up every day and getting to play baseball with your friends, right? And that's what I still have the ability to do as my job. And so the minor leagues were great, and the Pirates were great at development. So other than just the financial burden, which I'm sure you guys have heard a lot, it's been in the news a lot this year, where now they're making a union for the first time and stuff like that, which is cool. I think it's great for the game. But other than that, I loved it. Absolutely loved the minor leagues.
Yeah. I actually have done multiple school projects on the minor league life, and so I did a lot of research about it. And it what you just explained, it is tough. The grind is tough, and you hear all these stories of pitchers making their debuts, and it's like, oh, this guy was delivering packages a week ago, and now
Oh yeah.
So that kind of reminds me of what you just said. Was there like a moment like when you made your major league debut, were you like selling cars like a couple months prior to that, or was it that like big of like a chunk?
Yeah. I mean, I was still working. I made my debut in April of 2022, and I was still doing off-season jobs, as soon as January of 2022. So and so yeah, for sure, it is. And you always look back, and you're like, it's all worth it in the end. And again, even with me having to get off-season jobs and stuff, without the support from my family and my wife's family and my wife, I don't think I would have been able to make it. One of the coolest parts for me now is, so my wife's she's a PA, she's a physician assistant. She makes great money. She went to school, and so one of the coolest things for me is last off season. Actually, to answer your question, so this is a good story for that. So last off season, or I'm sorry, the season before I made my debut, the off season before I made my debut, she sat me down. She's like, "Hey, I don't want you having to do a big off-season job that takes up all your time. I really want you to focus on baseball. I think you can do it. So I'm working now." She's like, "Just write down all of your expenses for the off-season, and I'll just transfer you the money, and you pay for it all. And that way you don't have to work this off-season. You can just focus on baseball." And I was like, wow, like that means a lot. Thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. She wasn't my wife at that point. And so I did that. Or she did that. She transferred me the money, paid for it, didn't have to. And then obviously I debuted, 3 months later. And I think that has a lot to do with it, is the fact that I was just able to focus on baseball and not spend 6, 7, 8 hours a day working other jobs to make money, So that was a really cool cool thing for her. And now the flip side is I feel it's amazing that now I, signed a very big contract in Korea on a guaranteed deal where she got to quit her job and she's living with me in Korea and just gets to come live out here and, hang out and I get to give back to her the way she did for me. So it's pretty cool, full circle moment there.
That's one of the best stories that we've had told on this podcast. Yeah, that's a great story.
It's cool.
I'm a little bit lost for words. Yeah.
No, it's cool. And it's like I said, it's cool for me to now, because as a man, right, you have that kind of prideful thing where you want to take care of your family and you want to be the one doing it. And so for her to be doing that for me at the moment felt terrible. But then you realize when you take a step back, like, wow, that's awesome. Right. And, it's a really cool thing for her to do and want to do for me and stuff. So it's great. But that's moral of the story there, boys, is just keep the good ones close, keep the good friends close. That's who will help you get to the top with the podcast, with whatever you're doing, business, whatever it is. Keep the friends that are there supporting you, keep them close.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, wow, I don't think there's not a time that, like, there's not a chunk of time in my life. Yeah. And me and Max grew up together, down the block from each other. And
Nice.
there hasn't been a time in I think either of our lives, like, where there's like a chunk of time where like we weren't like doing something like, together, whether it was like, we were always out, we went to school together until high school. And then when I moved, my first episode before I started with specifically in baseball, I was just doing everything, but I was by myself. First episode, me and him talked about the Yankees losing in the wild card to the Red Sox.
Yeah, I'm sure for two Long Island guys, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
You guys, are you guys Yankees fans?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
I actually just went to the game last night.
Okay, cool.
Went to the game last night. I caught a trout. Toss up. He tossed me the ball.
Oh, there you go.
Great. Yeah.
So we're changing subjects here. We're bouncing around, but this is just great. So one of the things I absolutely told myself I was going to do is if I ever got to the big leagues is I would maximize whoever I got to play against and get jerseys signed by absolute legends that like I love. And it was because my older brother had texted me when I was in like single A, and he was up in Seattle. He was with the Orioles at that point. And he texted me, he's like, hey, they're doing this thing where I can pay like $300 in Ichiro, like to buy an Ichiro jersey, and he's signing it for guys on the other team. Like, should I buy the jersey? And I'm like, absolutely. Like Ichiro's G, like definitely go do that. And he was like, nah, I'm not going to. And didn't. And it killed me. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, from a guy that's in single A at this point, you got to go get those jerseys signed that you're playing against or guys that you're involved with, right? Yeah. And so I got really lucky. I got some really good ones last year. I was only up for 2.5 months my rookie year, but I got Clayton Kershaw, I got Mike Trout, because we played against the Angels. I got Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera,
wow,
Justin Verlander.
So your collection's pretty sick, yeah.
Dude, yeah, and they had all personalized to Beau, and each of them, said to Beau, like, because I was in the other locker room, right? So, like, it's to a player, so they take their time. They either themselves or have somebody, like, write out all their accolades on the jersey, and then they sign it, obviously. But, so it's pretty cool. So just your Mike Trout ball reminded me. I was like, I started my collection, and I got a pretty good one going so far.
That's kind of crazy to think about it, even from a fan's standpoint. Like, oh my God, I got a Mike Trout signed jersey. But for you, it's like you look at it, and it's not like, oh my God, I got a Mike Trout signed jersey. It's, oh my God, I got to play in the same field, face Mike Trout. So face all these players.
Gives me chills. Thinking about it still. But I think some players actually have a problem with that, right? Like they're like, no, if I'm competing on the same field, like I'm not going to go ask them for a signature. And
Yeah.
I'm in the opposite corner where I'm like, dude, like I can be the first one to recognize that I can be a very good big league pitcher, and my numbers were good in the big leagues, right? Like I
Yeah.
can be a good big league pitcher, but I can also realize that I'm not Mike Trout. Like
Oh,
I'm not Mike Trout, and like I'm not going to be a perennial Hall of Famer. That ship has sailed for me. When you debut at 28 years old, you're not going to be a Hall of Famer most likely as a stock right-handed reliever. And so for me, like it's still awesome to get those opportunities to play against those guys, and then have memorabilia that you can share and remember those moments of pitching against that team or playing against that team, et cetera. So anyway, sorry that the Mike Trout ball, when you said it, toss it up, that reminded me of that. And it was a pretty cool story, I thought.
I mean, here I'll show this off. I mean, I've shown this off before, but this was, and as a podcast guy and like a media guy, I I guess it was before we interviewed Lance McCullers, but I got on the field with Lance McCullers at a Yankees Astros game.
Cool.
So he signed this ball for me, and then we had him on like 2 weeks later, and Bregman also
That's
signed.
a good one.
So like, and the thing is with that is like media, you're not supposed to ask, but like
Yeah. But like, how could you not?
I mean, you're a kid. I mean,
it's okay because I'm a kid, but like also, I think if it gets to a point where I'm having guys in like a studio, if it gets to a point where I'm big enough to have major league guys come into like a studio, I'm gonna buy their jersey and ask for them to sign it so I can hang it up on that wall.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And they'd understand that, right? Like they get it too.
Oh
like,
yeah.
There's guys. And that's the part that's cool from my point of view. Is like I go in there and in the Orioles locker room, like you'll have guys with 10 opposite players' jerseys like hanging in their locker or like the locker next door from guys that they got signatures from. Like I got close with Jordan Lyles last year when we were both in Baltimore, and he was doing the same thing. He was getting jerseys from guys that were probably going to retire that he faced. So like the Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols jerseys, etc. And they have them all hanging in their locker and stuff. So, no, man, that's cool. Memorabilia is memorabilia. It's awesome to have. And hopefully you have kids one day and then you can tell them about, when you got to be on the field with these guys or interview these guys, or, I get to tell them about me playing against the guys. So, it's cool.
I mean,
so
go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, Aiden. So with the memorabilia stuff, I'm a huge fan of that. Actually, I ran kind of my own little eBay business over COVID with like I've sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things, buying like autographs and cards and whatnot. So I actually have two things I want to ask you. So one is for you, like, have you ever signed any cards for Topps or for Panini or whatever, and what was that like? And two, but two is not really a question. Two is just more like a statement I want to make. Is I tell Aiden all the time, like, we should really ask all these guys for autographs and stuff that come on our podcast. But at the same time, it's what's more valuable to me is in the future I could just look back on our YouTube video or in our social media and be like, man, I really had a chance to talk to this guy for a solid, half an hour to an hour. I think that's a better memory to me than just like an autograph. So.
And 100%, like you guys are creating, for me, the memorabilia is it's content, right? And so if you have the content that you've created with people, that's really also key. I think the thing about memorabilia is it's just easy, right? Like you have to like upload a video and then watch the video later, or find the video if you want to see one back with a guy from 20 years ago when you guys are big time and you're like, oh, remember that interview with that one guy? Now you have to go find it versus, if you got a jersey hanging on the wall, you can just be like, hey, we did an interview with that guy.
Yeah.
But no, I agree, man. I agree. And that's I think it's cool. I hope you guys, get the chance to interview some really, really, big guys that you can be super super proud about, because like it's just it's a cool opportunity to get to engage and just talk with guys from all over baseball. And then the first question. So what was your first? I'm sorry, your first question was.
It's about like what was it like signing your own baseball
Oh yeah,
card if you
Topps.
ever did?
Yeah. So I got a rookie card deal with Topps, and it was a signature series or whatever. So that was my only card deal. And like I had to sign, sit there on my desk and sign like I don't know, 4,000 cards, I think it was. And
Okay.
so
Your hand start to cramp or anything?
yeah, it took me like 2 weeks. I couldn't do. I think more my ADHD as well kicked in. Just sitting there
Yeah.
redoing the same thing. But more importantly is it was so funny. Like you're sitting there signing, right? And you're signing, and you get through like 100 of them, and you look and you realize your signature is like completely changed from the first 5 signatures you did, because you're like you almost forget how to do your signature because you just did it for so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like sitting there like doing it, and now you're just going through the motions. And so I had to stop on a couple, because if they're not like Beau Sulser authentic, they look at them all. And so the funny part is I remember like messing up on one specifically that looked a little different because my hand was just exhausted. And I was like I'll leave that one in there. It should be fine. And then when I got the paycheck from Topps, there was one card missing. And I was like, wow, man, they really do check all these signatures. Like they thoroughly check them. And if they don't look like the rest, they toss it out, and then you don't get paid for that one.
That's yeah. It sounds like a business. Sounds like a well-run.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? You don't want any fraud. Like this is talking about memorabilia. People really do care about this stuff, and they want, if they really want a Beau Sulser signature card, like they don't want it to look like different than the rest of the world's Beau Sulser signature cards. They're like, well, is this even it? So I get it from Topps. It's just funny because you think like me personally, I'm a pretty realistic guy, and to know who Topps is working with, Beau Sulser probably isn't high on their list. Like I was like, I can sneak one signature out of 4,000 through there.
Yeah.
Nope, you can't.
That's classic.
So shout out Topps because they do a great job. It's actually authentic.
Yeah,
I'm sure Panini. It's if you did want Panini, you could do a straight line and they would accept it. I mean, they're known for not being the best. They have, I think there was a story like it was like some player's card, and then it was like a jersey swatch card, and then they ripped open the card, and it's a letter on a jersey that is not even the guy's name. It's like a completely different jersey. The guy's last name doesn't even have that letter. So
that's ridiculous.
That's funny though. That's funny.
Before we move on, how does it cost money? Like, if you wanted to say swap jerseys with someone, what is it, like $300 to swap and then sign, something like that?
So no, typically, like honestly, teams for the most part will just let you do it. Like they don't have an issue if you really like. I wanted to buy jerseys, my own jerseys for my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like so if you're buying in bulk, and like people that really like went out of their way to help me, so like my trainer could have one, a Sulser jersey that I signed and stuff like that. So I went and bought some. Then they'll charge you the team rate. So you don't have to pay like the full amount that's like on the MLB store, and you get like the clubby rate, which is much better. Because they're just, buying it for the cost of goods.
Yeah.
And so that's how they do it. But most of the time teams, like if two guys want to exchange jerseys, like, I mean, it's the big leagues. They treat you really well. The guys will just exchange jerseys, and then you'll wake up the next day and you'll have a new jersey, your own jersey in your locker the next day. Like, it's not a big deal. They do a pretty good job.
Sounds sick. So
yeah, it's not a bad lifestyle.
Yeah. So, I say it. So do you have a Machado jersey? Because I feel like looking through your at-bats, he was the most prestigious guy you struck out, I feel like.
So I'm working on the two I want next. Are what happened with San Diego is I didn't know that was like 6 days after making my debut or something. And so I didn't have time to prepare because you need to order these jerseys, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And so I didn't really have time to prepare. So the two I really want is which shouldn't be too bad because I'm pretty close with Joe Musgrove. And so I can reach out to him for Machado. So I want Machado. That's a great point. I completely agree with you. I think he's, at this point, if I never go back to the States to play in the big leagues, I think he'll be the best hitter that I've struck out. And so I would love a jersey signed by him, and then Andrew McCutchen, which I'm working on because I still know the clubby, obviously, in Pittsburgh and stuff. And he was my very first batter I faced in the big leagues. And I struck him out in Pittsburgh when he was with Milwaukee. So it's kind of cool striking out McCutchen in PNC Park for your first batter in the big leagues. It's kind of cool. So
that's
So
awesome.
I'm gonna get him to sign a jersey too. I'm not gonna tell him that it's because I struck him out in my first batter ever, but still, I'm just gonna get him to sign it. Hopefully, not gonna tell him why.
Yeah, he's not going to see this, so it's fine. Yeah, good.
But yeah, so that actually kind of and almost answered the question next I was going to ask, which the MLB debut, and when that was like, I know you just said you struck out McCutchen your first at bat, but just like were you nervous? Like what was going through your mind?
Yeah, for sure. I get nervous. I mean, literally every time I still get nervous, right? I get nervous in spring training games over here in the KBO, which is, I think I love that. I feed off that. It's the games that I don't pitch well that I'm not nervous. But about the debut, it was a dream come true, man. There's nothing better. You worked for years and years and years and years to make that happen. And there's a lot of times where you start to think it's never going to happen. There's times where you're like, dude, I just might not be good enough, or I might not get the opportunity, even if I am good enough. And so to finally get there, and then, it's very surreal. I think I was very lucky that I didn't pitch on the actual day I got called up, because I think I don't know if I would have pitched as well, because the emotions and just like being crazy excited, and that would have meant I debuted at Wrigley Field, which would have been probably a little scary, or not scarier, but like made me too nervous. Whereas at PNC Park, there weren't many fans that game. I had been in the big leagues for a couple of days now, so I was able to like kind of settle in. And so it was cool though, man. Like, absolute dream come true. I blacked out. My back leg was like shaking. I remember specifically like looking around at my defense, and the way I calmed myself down is I said, this is the exact same defense I pitched with in spring training. Like, look around. These are the same guys. This is just a spring training game. And so I just told myself it's a spring training game, step back on the rubber, and then, faced Andrew McCutchen. And then once I struck him out, that's kind of when it settled in, and you're like, oh shit, I can do this. Like, my stuff plays. Like, I'm a big league pitcher. I just struck out my first batter. My stuff still plays. I'm good to go. And it settled me in, and I had a good first outing. It was good.
Yeah. And then, I hate to kind of rush through this, but I know I got to go eat soon. And I know, Max, you have 20 minutes. You also have to go soon. So, I mean, we talked about those were 2 out of, I think you had 3 or 4 appearances with Pittsburgh. And then, you went to Baltimore, and what was the change of scenery like? Because I think you started performing better towards the end of the season as it went on. And I think was that like nerves, like you kind of settled into the majors, you were there, you were like, the emotions were, I guess, not like done. You never aren't emotional when you're pitching in baseball and you're playing a sport that you love, but like kind of calmed down, like settled into the majors. And just, been there.
Yeah, for sure. I think you get comfortable, and once you're comfortable, you still have those nerves, but it's more, you use it to your advantage, right? Like, your adrenaline's a little higher. So my velo was a little higher at the end of the year. I will, not that the Pirates don't develop, the Orioles and their pitching development is very, very good. And so we worked on some stuff. We worked on some mechanic stuff. The big league pitching coaches up there are great. And so I also did work on some things mechanically, and they taught me the sweeper, which, is a new breaking ball and stuff. And so I think that helped a lot too, is just adding pitches and getting a little bit more comfortable. I think both of them for sure. And the only story, just because you guys are Yankees guys, I was going to touch on the only time I was probably more nervous than on my debut, and I ended up not pitching, but like I had like just absolute butterflies in my stomach when I walked out and saw all the media and stuff. Is I was up in the big leagues playing against the Yankees the series after Aaron Judge tied the home run record at 61.
Oh,
Oh,
I was at all those games.
yeah.
And
I was
it
at
was
one or two of them.
Yeah, so like obviously we came in, we're the Orioles, we come in and like everybody thinks he's going to do it at home against us. The fans are absolutely packed. Like I have never in my life been sitting on a baseball field, and I made sure so on the away bullpen in Yankee Stadium, you can like go up and sit out like up on top, where you can see over the fence. And I made sure every at bat of his, I made like sure I was out there, and it was crazy to me to watch 50,000 fans be dead silent. Like you could hear a pin drop every time he came to hit. And that day I felt the nerves that I normally feel like running out onto the mound. I felt when I walked out of the clubhouse to just come play catch, like warm up for the day, because like MLB Tonight network was there. There was like 4 networks on the field. There was 1,000 reporters. There was like, it was the most media packed I'd ever been, and I'm like, wow, I might actually be the one that has to face this guy, and so that was pretty cool, and I thought you guys would appreciate that, just being Yankees fans, and that was a cool experience for me, obviously. But yeah, with back to what you were asking, Baltimore, I think you do just get settled in, you get settled in and you get more confident, right? Like you get more confident, and when you're confident, if there's any baseball players watching, which I hope there are, I think the most important thing you can do to better your career is be confident. Like, trust yourself. And if you do something well, do that extremely well. My career changed when I quit trying to be somebody I'm not. I'm not going to throw 99. So make sure I'm the best pitcher I possibly can be at 92 to 94. And when I started thinking that way, instead of being like, oh, I want to be like these guys that throw 99, or I want to wipe out slider. It's like, no, my best pitch is my changeup, and I only throw 93. And that's okay, as long as I make sure both of those are better than other guys that throw 93 and somebody else that has a changeup. As long as my changeup's better, then I'll be fine. So I think that's the key, is just knowing yourself.
Yeah. So now one last thing before we kind of transition into like the end, and I do want to touch a little bit on the KBO, because that's interesting. But one thing I want to ask about personally is, what's your experience like with Adley catching you? Because now with all the attention he's getting, he's a stud. Adley, I repost a lot of his home. I'm an Adley Rutschman guy. I'm an Orioles. I can't say I'm an Orioles guy because I'm a Yankee fan, but like, I really like what the Orioles are doing out in Baltimore. I like Gunnar Henderson. I like Grayson. I like Adley. I did play with them a little bit in show last year, like just because it was an interesting team. It was a fun team to play with. Adley sees all the stuff I repost and I add him, and he doesn't respond. So maybe if like I post like a clip, something good, maybe he'll see it. Maybe so.
Yeah, no, I'll do what I can. So you can tag Adley in this.
Oh,
he's the man, right? Like I actually, funny story, I was just claimed by the Orioles. So I've never met Adley in my life. I was there in AAA with like 8 other guys. And when he had his call-up video, if you guys ever watch his call-up video where they like surprise him, I was one of the guys waiting right outside the door to like congratulate him. And I had never met him before. That was like, I had just gotten claimed by the Orioles. And so I'm sitting there like, but I like felt like a dick if I didn't go congratulate him. And so I'm like, Adley, man, congratulations. And he looks at me, he's like, thanks. I don't really know who you are, but thanks, man. Like, so it was a funny interaction when he got called up to the big leagues. But with that, Adley's very good. you know, he's just a good dude. And what I respect about Adley the most is he knows that he will have a job year in, year out if he hits, right? If he hits well, he'll have a job year in, year out. But the amount of time and effort he puts into catching and knowing his pitchers to make sure he can also call a good game defensively, like he puts in just as much time into that as he does hitting. And he's an amazingly hard worker. He's going to be good for a long time. And I think that's a testament, right? Is like, I feel like a lot of guys that were drafted 1-1 overall, top prospect in baseball as a catcher, they know that if they go hit 300 with 20 home runs as a switch hitting catcher, they know that they can get away with being subpar defensively or not really putting in the work defensively because they're still going to get those opportunities to be a catcher for forever if he's hitting 300 as a switch hitter. And he didn't take that as an opportunity to be average at defense. He went above and beyond and worked harder than I've seen a lot of other catchers work that are just defensive catchers, right? And so he very much wants to be the best at everything he does. And he genuinely cares. There's nothing better than as a pitcher than when you know your catcher actually cares about how you do, right? Like he actually cares how you personally do on the mound because he feels like it's a correlation to how good of a catcher he is and the game he calls. And so he works very hard to understand your pitches, understand cues that help you settle in if you're having a good hard time. So I can't speak high enough about Adley. You can tag him in that. Tell him he's a decent catcher.
Would you say he's the best catcher that you've ever thrown to?
Yeah, I would say he's Adley the best catcher I've thrown to for sure. I got very lucky with the catchers besides Adley that I got to throw to in the big leagues were veteran catchers. And so they called a great game because of the fact that like that's what they were there to do in Pittsburgh with Perez and then Chirinos in Baltimore as well. Great guys, great defensive catchers, call a great game. But Adley's already doing that and he's a rookie, like that's the crazy part is he's already calling a great game and understanding the game at a level that he probably shouldn't as a rookie. Yeah. So, and just to make you an Orioles fan, I'm an Orioles fan now, man. I absolutely love those guys on that team. Like the stuff going on in the dugout with the homer hose and like the sprinklers and like that's why I love that team is they're a great group of guys. They love to have fun. They're like, you should be an Orioles fan. It's a fun team. It's a very, very fun team.
I mean, I was an Orioles fan because...
Just don't tell anybody.
No, I mean, I was an Orioles fan back in the day because they were so bad to the Yankees. It always matched against them. But now the tables have turned a little bit. They're on the up and come up. And I mean, the AL East is a very competitive division now. It's crazy.
Very. Very.
So, I mean, I just think it's cool that, first of all, that story that you told about the first time meeting Adley was congratulating him. I feel like that's a pretty funny story. Like, once he becomes a Hall of Famer, if he does, you could always tell that story to people.
Yeah, and at the time it felt so awkward because you're like, I mean, like I want to be genuinely, and I genuinely am happy for you, but you probably are like, why are you congratulating me? You don't even know me. So it was funny. It's like, but it was great. Yeah, it was cool for him, and just you can put yourself in his shoes, and understand how happy he is that he's getting the call up.
Yeah. So,
all right. Aiden, I know you want to wrap this up because you have to go. First of all, I have one more thing to ask. And first, I was hoping, in the future, if you would be down to come on again, because I have a lot more questions I would want to ask you.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah, no problem.
Right,
I'll like I said, I'd hop on, and you guys are good dudes. So
yeah, we could. I could do another 15 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that's cool. That's good with me. Let's keep going.
All right. Yeah. So.
And I'll still hop on later. We'll still, dude. We can talk all day. As you can tell, I'm a talker.
I'm in. Yeah.
So I recently saw a podcast. I forgot what the podcast was, but it was Eric Kratz and he said that while he was in, like, the question was, while in AAA, who was a player that when they were on the rehab assignment was not nice to the big leaguers at all. Have you had any experiences? You could say either on the positive or the negative about while you were in the minors, the guys being sent down for rehab, veteran guys. Or were there any positive or negative experiences that stood out to you?
Honestly, no negatives. Like that would have jumped off the page, I think, right away. No negatives for me. And to be honest, I didn't have too many like big name guys that came and rehabbed with me in the minor leagues, right? Like with Pittsburgh, we didn't have too many when I was in AAA, like guys that came down, older guys. Trying to think. That's actually a really good question. Definitely no negatives. I never ran into somebody coming down and just, being a douchebag to all the minor leaguers, like I'm a big leaguer, leave me alone. I would say more in spring training, not so much. I don't remember any interactions with guys actually in the minor leagues rehabbing, but like more spring training where they happen to have to come down to get innings against like with the minor league team. And one interaction was like Jameson Tyone, super nice guy. Went out of his way to be helpful, went out of his way to like introduce himself, and just be a really good dude. And then little stuff like, in my personal life, like guys like Joe Musgrove or Kyle Hendricks, Dartmouth guy, guys like that, like reaching out to me, and we're not super close, but we have acquaintances. But like when I go make my debut, it was like Kyle Hendricks' start day, and he still texted me after and was like, "Hey man, congratulations on getting called up," like blah blah blah. And I'm like, wow, for you to take the time out of your day when I'm on a different team, we're not that close, and it's your start day, and for you to message me, like that's cool. So yeah, man, no negatives. Unfortunately, no like crazy stories or anything for you. They always, buy us a good meal. We always get Outback or some steakhouse, and it was good. It was positive experiences for me.
Yeah.
Can't complain about it.
Unfortunately, nothing we could do a clickbait video on for the social media.
I know. I wish I had some content for you guys, but I don't have any crazy stories, good or bad. Like nobody's giving us iPads or some shit either, But yeah, no, it's good. It's been a very positive experience, I think, with older guys. Like Jordan Lyles was a mentor to me in Baltimore. Like he went out of his way to be a nice guy and kind of be the leader over there. And there's a ton of guys like in the bullpen in Pittsburgh, Chris Stratton and DeYoung that took their time, Bednar that took their time to, talk with me and go through things. So otherwise, man, I've been on 2 Pirates and Orioles or very young teams. So there's not a lot of interaction with those old vets,
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's still good experience. To be on those young teams to see how it kind of works, compare it. It's kind of like being on a minor league team that's just too good to play in the minors.
No, it is. And it's cool. It's very exciting. Like the energy around the Orioles last year was a ton of fun. Like the support we were getting at the end of the year when we were making a little playoff push was a lot of fun to be pitching in the big leagues up there during that time. So it was good. If you guys want, we can get into the KBO now too for a little bit.
I was just gonna say I want to get into the KBO because I don't have that much time left, and we could get into this in depth on a different episode as well.
Yeah,
cool.
Definitely.
I have a lot of questions about the KBO, but I think we should save a lot of that for a more in-depth conversation down the road.
Yeah, right. And I'll have more information for you guys then too. But so far, man, it's been great. They treat you super, super well. The language barrier has been tough, obviously, but I get a full-time translator. The team, I got a 3-bed, 2-bath apartment right across the street from the field.
Wow. Yeah.
That is free for me. So like I don't pay for my living. The food over here is elite. They have like the best quality food. And
Korean
so,
barbecue. Oh,
yeah, Korean barbecue.
yeah.
I guess over here it's just barbecue because we're in
Yeah.
Korea. So
Yeah.
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 barbecue. But the quality, like the outside of baseball, is they do a really really good job for me with KT Wiz. I've heard other teams maybe like you don't quite get it the same amenities or same things, but the KT Wiz here have done an amazing job. And then the games, dude. I wish I could pick up the energy and then bring it to a Major League Baseball stadium because it is insane. I don't know if you guys have like done any research into the fans of the KBO, but it's like a I've never been, but how I would imagine a like international soccer game is in the Premier League, you know, where everybody's chanting the entire game, everybody's it's not about, you know, in the States, a lot of times it's about like, let's go have a beer on a nice warm day and watch
Yeah.
some baseball.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, we're going to be up on our feet chanting the entire time. And there's cheerleaders and there's guys on big drums through the entire game. So for me as a pitcher, it was a little weird getting used to because, like, in the States, you're used to it being dead silent before you start your pitch. You know, they'll play like walk up music.
Yeah.
But then after that, there's nothing going on. But here, they're literally playing. A DJ is playing and chanting, and all of the fans are chanting nonstop through the entire inning. So, like, you're pitching in the delivery, and it's like hard to hear my first baseman tell me something because there's just a DJ playing loud music and fans chanting and a guy on a big drum. And so the energy in the stadiums are really, really cool.
I think that would be awesome for baseball. Like,
I'm not kidding. Like, I wish there was a way. I don't know if they would buy in. Like, I don't know if fans would buy in.
I don't think they
but would. I wish. What I'll probably do, because I played for the Savannah Bananas, I'm going to talk to Jesse. I was their very first year of the Savannah Bananas College Summer League.
That's going to be even more questions for.
We have to do it.
We can talk about the Bananas later. We'll have another podcast because I have a very eclectic trip to the big league.
This needs to go into a second episode, 100%.
So, but anyways, I want the Bananas to try to like replicate it because it's just like it would. I feel like it would bring so many more young fans because it's not boring anymore. You're not catching those kids sleeping in the outfield. Like,
oh my god,
it is so much fun. So I'll try to like get a video or something and send you guys so you guys can just see. But it's cool. It's cool. I'm loving it so far. I think it's also for me, and then I'll let you guys go. But for me, I think one of the coolest parts is, I was a nobody in the big leagues. Like, I'm a guy that got a little bit of clout because I debuted in number 69. And other than that, like, nobody knows who Beau Sulser is. Over here, it's the opposite, right? You turn into like instantly you're the big free agent sign that they went to go buy. You know, like I'm the guy they went and got from America, and they're paying me a lot of money to be a top end rotation starter for them. And like that is cool. You know, you walk out of the game and then or before the game, I'll walk into Starbucks across the street and people want selfies with me. And, and so that aspect of it is so much fun to me because that's something I probably would have never experienced in the big leagues because of the role I was in and all like that, and so getting the opportunity to kind of feel that being the man and like being an important part of the team is really cool.
Yeah. So before we end it, I do have one question. I don't know. I'm going to ask you. I don't know if depending on how it goes, how it goes, I don't know if I want to keep it, but I know. I guess the biggest Trevor Bauer's in the KBO now, right? Or is he Japan?
He's Japan.
Okay, then never mind. Then I'm not going to ask it.
Yeah.
I was going to say because I thought he was KBO for a second, but it's completely different.
Yeah, so it's different. So a lot of people, and no problem at all. Like This is a lot of people get it mixed up because I still get DMs from even like family friends that are like, "Oh, how are you liking Japan?" And I'm like, "I'm not playing in Japan," but there's the KBO, which is made up of 10 teams that are only in Korea. And then there's the NPB, which is the Japanese league. And basically how it's viewed is the MLB and then the Japan league and then the Korean league. So the Korean league, in terms of like level of baseball, is thought of as being a little bit lower. And they don't pay quite as much as the NPB does in Japan for like long-term contracts and stuff. But that's basically that's how it works. That's any team can buy out. So like the Pirates still owned my contract because at the end of last year I got DFA'd by the Orioles and the Pirates reclaimed me. So I was actually back on the Pirates at the end of the year, like during playoffs and stuff. Yeah. And so the Pirates still own my contract, and so the Korean team actually had to buy my contract out from the Pirates. So they had to pay the Pirates money once me and the Korean team agreed on a price. Then they had to pay the rest of the money to the Pirates to make sure that the Pirates are happy. So they bought my contract from the Pirates. That's a 1-year deal. So I'm here for 1 year, and then I become a free agent and I can sign anywhere. So it's pretty cool.
Do you have any plans for the future, or are you still like just this year, focusing this year? Plans on trying to go back to the majors, or are you you love Korea and you want to keep playing there?
No, of course the goal is to go back to the major leagues, and I think this is a good stepping stone. You just depending on how you throw, because this is viewed as being better than AAA competition, and so if you put together a full, really good season over here, like that is well respected. But it just depends. As with anything, you can plan. You can, my goal is to come back. Right, I don't want to be done playing in the big leagues. With that being said, I also like money, and they pay really well over here.
I like money too. Yeah.
You're limited to $1 million max between your buyout and your contract your rookie year over here. So your very first year in the KBO, they can only give you $1 million between buying your contract from your team and then what they give you in guaranteed money. And so I was, I'm making right at major league minimum in guaranteed money over here. But then your second year, you can jump up to 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. And so for me, if I have a good year, and then the options are either a minor league contract over there as a free agent or signing for 1.2 over here, I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? I would probably stay. Then go sign for $180,000 over in the States. So it all just depends how I throw. I have to throw well, and if I throw well, I hope I have multiple opportunities. But what I will say is, obviously the goal is to play at the highest level possible, which is the MLB. With that being said, I've absolutely loved it over here. And so there would have to be a very good opportunity to go back over there. It wouldn't just be like, okay, I'm going back because I didn't like it, type situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think with that being said, we can leave a ton of questions for another episode.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Anytime, really anytime. And if you have any friends that want to come on, maybe your brother, maybe Joe Musgrove, maybe Jordan Lyles, maybe anybody, we need guests.
Yeah, I'll reach out. My brother, I know my brother would. So
yeah, I mean that'd
be great.
Awesome. Yeah, play. Every team plays every team. So if they play the Yankees in New York, we'll be at. I'll be at a Diamondbacks Yankees game 100%.
Deal.
Or Diamondbacks Mets. Anyway, I'm there. But thank you so much for coming on. This is a great experience. It's been so long for us, first of all. And then, to have you as our first guest back is really fun. This is a great episode to film. Any last words, any advice for anyone watching, anything?
I leave this advice. I'll keep it short because I talk too much. That's why we're low on time. Is always just keep getting better. I tell kids this every time, no matter what you're doing, right? Like again, it's not just baseball, but like whatever you're doing at the podcast or music or business or school or whatever, you're not always going to be the best. But if you get a little bit better the next day and a little bit better the next day, you're going to accomplish your goals. I wasn't the best on my high school team. I wasn't the best on my college team. I wasn't the best on any minor league team I've been on. And out of 99% of those people that were better than me, I made it farther than them. And that's because I just kept getting better. And I had a goal to just keep getting better. So I think that's my best advice I can give is just keep getting better. And you guys will be surprised when you look up in 3 years and be like, oh my God, it doesn't seem like I did that much, but I am so much better. So that's my advice.
Mm-hmm. Max,
All right. No, that was great advice. And I mean, I can even see with Aiden when we first started this podcast, slowly, we've been getting a little better at each podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were, first of all, very, very great to talk to. We even love guests that talk a lot, even though it might be a problem at the time. It just makes our job so much easier.
Yeah.
So this was great. I'm really happy. You know, we took a kind of an extended spring break on the podcast, but I'm glad to be in the full swing of things. Yeah, I told my friends I was gonna meet them at 9 o'clock, but I'm like, screw this. I'm talking to an MLB pitcher. Why? Take it away a little bit.
Tell them it's my fault.
Yeah, I'll tell them that. But yeah, so thanks so much for coming on, and can't wait to have you on soon.
Yeah,
of course, man. Yeah, just let me know, and we'll hop back on, and I'll make sure somebody else is with me. It won't just be me because you guys will get bored of me next time. So, I'll make sure I got my brother on here or something.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And
of course, man.
Yeah.
Take care. Good luck, and yeah, just message me or anything if you need anything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you, boys.